Perseus flew across the sky. His winged sandals carried him swiftly. The wind whipped around him. He was on a quest, guided by the fates. Below, the coastline came into view. It was a jagged, unforgiving shore. Perseus felt a pull, a sense of urgency. Something was wrong. He swooped lower, closer to the rocky cliffs. A crowd had gathered, their faces etched with fear. Perseus landed softly, his presence commanding attention. "What troubles you?" he asked, his voice strong and clear. An old man stepped forward, his eyes filled with terror. "A monster! A sacrifice!" he stammered, pointing to a figure chained to a rock jutting out of the sea. Perseus turned his gaze towards the ocean. A young woman was chained to a rock. Her beauty was striking, but her face was pale with fear. She was Andromeda, the old man explained. Andromeda saw Perseus. A flicker of hope appeared in her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by despair. Who was this stranger? Could he really help her? Time was running out. The sea churned, growing more violent with each passing moment. A shadow emerged from the depths, growing larger and larger. The monster was coming. Perseus drew his sword. It gleamed in the sunlight, a beacon of defiance against the approaching darkness. "Do not fear," he told Andromeda. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. The crowd gasped. Their collective breath caught in their throats as they witnessed the unimaginable. The sea monster was upon them, rising from the depths like a nightmare made flesh. Its scales shimmered like oil on water, reflecting the dim light in a mesmerizing yet terrifying display. Its eyes burned with a malevolent fire, glowing with an intensity that seemed to pierce through the souls of those who dared to look. Its jaws, lined with razor-sharp teeth, opened wide in a silent roar, revealing a cavernous maw that promised only death. The stench of rotting flesh filled the air, an overwhelming odour that caused people to vomit and faint in sheer terror. The bravest among them could only watch in horror, their courage faltering in the face of such an abomination. This was Cetus, a beast sent by the gods to punish their land. Andromeda, bound and helpless, closed her eyes, praying for a swift end. Tears streamed down her face, each drop a testament to her despair and resignation. She had accepted her fate, believing that death was a merciful release compared to the horror of being devoured alive. Death was preferable to being devoured alive by this abomination, a thought that brought her a strange sense of peace amidst the chaos. But death did not come. Instead, she heard a clang of metal, a roar of defiance that cut through the air. She opened her eyes to see a clash of sword and monster, a heroic figure standing against the beast. Perseus stood before her, his sword raised in challenge, his presence a beacon of hope in the darkness. He was a shining knight against the monstrous darkness, a symbol of courage and defiance in the face of overwhelming odds. Perseus stood firm. He felt no fear, only a cold determination. This creature, this Cetus, would devour Andromeda no more. He would defeat it. The monster lunged. Perseus dodged, his movement swift and sure. He raised the head of Medusa, the Gorgon. He had slain her before, and now her power would be his weapon. Cetus hesitated. The Gorgon's head was deadly. Its gaze could turn even the mightiest creature to stone, but the monster's hunger was too great, its rage uncontrollable. Perseus saw his opportunity. He moved with lightning speed, his sword a blur of motion. He struck Cetus, a deep gash appearing on its monstrous hide. The beast roared in pain. The battle had begun. The battle raged on, a fierce clash of titanic forces that seemed to shake the very heavens and earth. Perseus was a whirlwind of motion, his sword flashing in the sunlight like a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. His every move was precise, a dance of death that left no room for error. Cetus, wounded but enraged, fought back with savage fury. The beast's eyes burned with a primal rage, its every roar a testament to its unyielding will to survive. The sea churned around them, a maelstrom of foam and blood. Waves crashed violently, as if the ocean itself was rebelling against the violence unfolding within its depths. Perseus dodged the monster's snapping jaws with agility born of desperation. Each narrow escape was a reminder of the thin line between life and death. He ducked under its thrashing tail, feeling the rush of air as it passed mere inches above his head. The ground shook with the force of the creature's movements. He struck again and again, each blow drawing more of the creature's foul blood. His arms ached, but he knew he couldn't relent. Cetus roared, a sound of pure rage and pain that echoed across the battlefield. It was a cry that spoke of ancient grudges and unending fury. It lunged again, its massive bulk a wall of muscle and teeth. The sheer force of its attack was enough to send shockwaves through the water. Perseus leaped aside, narrowly avoiding the attack. He saw his chance, a fleeting opportunity to end the battle once and for all. As Cetus reared back for another attack, Perseus struck with all his might. His sword found its mark, piercing the creature's heart. He plunged his sword deep into the monster's heart, feeling the resistance give way as he drove the blade home. The roar died in its throat, replaced by a gurgling groan. The once mighty beast was now a shadow of its former self, its strength ebbing away. Cetus, the terror of the seas, was vanquished. Perseus stood victorious, a hero forged in the crucible of battle, his legend forever etched in the annals of history. Section 6. Freedom's Embrace. The crowd watched in stunned silence. The sea, moments ago a raging torrent, grew calm. Cetus's body, its lifeblood staining the water a gruesome crimson, slowly sank beneath the waves. Perseus waded ashore. He was covered in the monster's blood, but he stood tall, victorious. He turned to Andromeda, still chained to the rock. "You are safe now," he said, his voice gentle. He raised the Gorgon's head. The chains that bound Andromeda turned to dust. She fell into his arms, weak with relief. The crowd erupted in cheers. They had witnessed a miracle. Perseus held Andromeda close. He could feel her heart beating against his chest. She was safe. He had kept his promise. He had slain the monster and rescued the princess. Section 7. A Princess's Plea. The old man who had spoken to Perseus earlier stepped forward. His eyes were filled with a mixture of hope and despair, a reflection of the dire situation they faced. He was Cepheus, Andromeda's father, the king of this land. His regal bearing was overshadowed by the weight of his sorrow. His face was etched with shame and gratitude, a father torn between his duty to his people and his love for his daughter. He explained how his wife Cassiopeia had boasted of Andromeda's beauty, her pride blinding her to the consequences of her words. Cassiopeia had claimed that Andromeda was even lovelier than the Nereids, the sea nymphs, whose beauty was legendary and revered. The gods, angered by her hubris, had sent Cetus, a fearsome sea monster, to punish them. The once peaceful seas now roared with the wrath of the gods. The only way to appease the gods, the oracle had declared, was through a sacrifice. The oracle's words were final and left no room for negotiation. The only way to save their land was to sacrifice Andromeda to the monster. The decision was heart-wrenching, but it was the only hope they had. And so, with a heavy heart, Cepheus had chained his daughter to the rock, praying for a miracle. The people gathered, their hearts heavy with sorrow and hope. And a miracle had arrived, in the form of a young hero with winged sandals and a heart of gold. Perseus, known for his bravery and strength, had come to their aid. Perseus, the slayer of monsters, had saved his daughter and freed his kingdom from terror. The people rejoiced, their prayers answered by the hero's courage and valour. Section 8. Rejoice and gratitude. Joyous celebration erupted. The people cheered, their voices echoing across the water. They showered Perseus with flowers and praise. He had saved them all. Cepheus, his eyes filled with tears, embraced Perseus. "You have my eternal gratitude," he said. "Ask anything of me, and it shall be yours." Andromeda, her eyes shining with admiration, stepped forward. She took Perseus's hand in hers. "You are my hero," she whispered. "I owe you my life." Perseus looked into her eyes, so full of gratitude and something more. He knew in that moment that his adventures were far from over. His heart, like his winged sandals, would carry him to new and wondrous destinations. Section 9. Adventures to come. But for now, Perseus allowed himself a moment of triumph. He had faced a terrible monster and emerged victorious. He had saved an innocent life and won the hearts of a grateful people. His adventures, however, were not over. The fates had other plans for him, other trials to test his courage and cunning. He would face more monsters, overcome more challenges, and write his name in the stars for all time. Join us next time as we continue to follow Perseus on his incredible journey, a tale of bravery, love, and the boundless power of the human spirit.